Over the dusk of empires, a stale mist of rot lies. Death's victory came swift, thus that no line's muskets could have halted, no cavalry's steel could have broken. The very price of our sacrifice, our hubris, turned against us with a laugh. The strike of the midnight hour on Europe's clock draws nigh, and revealed in the falling of the next dawn's sun will be a world born again, grown from the scars of its own demise, and twinkling in the eyes of its children, birthed from the rot of the end, will be a new appetite, one relentless and undying. The idea of this apocalypse of wood, steel, and black powder, a desperation-fueled surge in experimental technology, a diaspora of humanity fighting itself for the spoils hidden beneath the twisted remains of Europe. Captivating, certainly, but where was it really going? Can a studio really defy expected genre trope and truly reflect the unique identity of its setting? How does a game leverage the intensity of modern game design against old, long-standing traditions? Can developers do the impossible and cater to PvP and PvE fans at once? Well, load your lever-action semi-automatic musket. It's time to really delve into the depths of hunger in all of its visceral detail. But first, anyone interested in the historical side of things would appreciate the sponsor of today's video, War Thunder, by far the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, for free on PC, console, and mobile. Yes, you heard that right. War Thunder is now available on iOS and Android, with all the impressive visuals and huge multiplayer vehicle battles millions of fans worldwide have enjoyed for years now. Ever since it first came out, War Thunder's sophisticated damage system was what impressed me the most. Forget HP bars, you've got every component of the game's 2,500 plus vehicles modeled internally. You can even test different types of munitions to see exactly where the weak points are, everything behaving exactly like it would in real life. This is an immersive, detailed experience that puts you right in the driver's seat, from the earliest war machines of the 20s to the jets and main battle tanks of the 21st century. So join over 95 million players worldwide by following the links in my description and pinned comment, and start playing War Thunder for free right now on PC, console, and mobile. And for a limited time, any new or returning PC or console players who haven't played in at least 6 months can sign up using my link to get a huge bonus pack, including the Eagle of Valor vehicle decorator, 7 days of a premium account, and 100,000 silver lions. So jump on that one while you can. Again, thank you so much to War Thunder for supporting the channel today. Systems interacting with systems, it's what gives every game its identity. How two games in the same subgenre can pull drastically different audiences. And since I first talked about this game, a comparison keeps coming up that I need to address head on. So yeah, this game is not Napoleonic era Hunt Showdown, like, not even close, but it's hard to really explain that to people from the sidelines. So from the beginning, here's how an expedition in Hunger plays out. First off, you select your character based on their passive and active traits. And yes, I know this screams hero shooter, but it really isn't, and we'll break down exactly why a little bit later. From the chateau, your home base, you'll select your weapons, armor, and consumables, and whatever story or daily quests from traders, make a plan, and set out. Touching down in the expedition, you'll likely focus one major goal, maybe a story quest, a fort, or a dungeon, dealing with threats along the way. The longer you live, the more hunger you put down, the more XP you'll earn upon survival, and the more mastery points you can then spend to craft your character. As you progress through the quests, you'll gain trust and privileges with the people in charge, and rise through the chateau's hierarchy, furthering your options and potential roles in Hunger's ecosystem. Alright. Seem complex? Well, maybe it does and maybe it doesn't, but that's the most surface level explanation I can give for what the bones of Hunger is. And we needed to get that out of the way so that we could delve into the meat of things. I remember the moment that Hunger began to really open up for me, and it was when I started to understand how keys worked. Keys in Hunger can be earned or found anywhere and are sorted by rarity. Bronze, silver, and gold keys are one-time use and open locked doors or containers. Named keys are multi-use and apply to a specific named door. Deciding when to burn a key to make its use worthwhile, or when to strike with a bladed weapon rather than my musket, understanding that I often had to give a little to take a lot. It's when I started to get confident, to go, I'm actually playing this game. And confidence will be the least you need to start approaching dungeons. These are locked behind a 3-use named key, and each will have a completely unique theme, aesthetic, and approach. Alongside plentiful containers, many of them unique to that given dungeon, and high-chance static spawns for more dungeon or gold keys, a single key will spawn inside somewhere for that dungeon's loot chest, the blood box in Jacques' Folly or the crypt in the pit, for example. This box will guarantee at least one legendary item, maybe a bag, weapon, or even cosmetic recipe, and in the future, some items may only spawn in this specific container. Nearby this chest will be the boss room door. This is what you have to first discover to unlock the corresponding boss fight, which, again, we'll come back to a little bit later. With their potentially bountiful reward, dungeons of course will come with unique risk, unique hunger threats, for one. These subterranean pools in the Undercroft will most likely be where you'll first run into wombs and cherubs, grotesque static hunger that birth floating explosive ones overwhelming the living until the womb is destroyed. Thrashers, found in Jacques' Folly, will be aggressive, charging hunger resistant to damage. You'll need to dodge and strike them carefully to take them down. Not looking forward to that. See, every hunger in Hunger, they're not created equal. Some are junk mobs, of course, just keep you a little bit on your toes. Others that are more challenging are loot boxes, and potentially very lucrative ones. But others are sound traps, like the Howler, a slow-moving hunger which will trigger within a certain radius its horrid screech heard everywhere around the map, while deafening and slowing down any living that got too close to it. It's a stun grenade. It's a stun grenade zombie. It's horrible. Other hunger will be area denial, such as the Tower, an immobile, immense hunger with a low chance of spawning once per map. Get within 100 meters of this guy, and it'll awaken and stand, picking up and hurling the corpses laying around it at the living. And some hunger are going to require completely unique tactics, such as the Ash, hunger formed from a person burned to death. They'll be lightning fast, but completely blind, with a weak point in their back. Every one of the medium-sized hunger as well, like the Brutes and Droolers, they'll have rare mini-boss variants, such as the Pale Lady. Super tough to take down with valuable, unique loot as reward. These are possible anywhere, but more likely down here. A dungeon, in my experience, takes almost the entire expedition to reach, enter, fight through, loot, and leave again via one of several entrances and exits. Alongside with weapons, consumables, ammunition, time is really one of the dearest resources you need to manage. Come on, 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 come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on. Come on. Oh my god. Oh my god. The game's first 3 maps are similar in size and style, but that will change. This cliffside town map, for example, still very work in progress. It'll be an immense, sprawling, almost entirely urban location, dense, vertical, asymmetrical. Bastille will be tiny by comparison. One large building, it's, the Bastille, a labyrinth of dungeon cages and corridors, a million intertwined routes. Basically the only map that is a dungeon in and of itself. And then the polar opposite, Vallon Marsh, a flat coastal swampland. It's the remnants of an old French fishing town, and as a bastion of trade and commerce before the end, so has it become one of the distorted post-end economy. Out here will reside members of the Meyer cartel, dealers and smugglers of the swamplands, and one of Hunger's human factions. Oh yeah, so, the human factions. Guess we should get into that. When I first chatted with Max Rea, the CEO, about Hunger's world, he described the chateau as ideally being their version of a town in an open-world RPG. And I guess I didn't realize how far that idea went. We discussed how the end, coming during and partially caused by the Napoleonic Wars, was the catalyst for this flash photo on a diasporic humanity. Shuffled and scattered ideologies, ethnic groups, and technologies were suddenly stamped down in place wherever they dropped anchor. Entirely new orders, positions of power, and hierarchies replacing the old world order. I thought at the time, however, that this would manifest for the player entirely in the chateau. The various trader NPCs and their affiliations, from the underclass of the Outer Ramparts through to the nobility and aristocracy of the heavenly reaches. Because, I'd been wondering, were there any human living who'd ventured out into the mainland like us, or even more chillingly, who'd actually carved out strongholds out there in the wild? Alongside the many traders you'll encounter in the chateau, you'll be able to engage with representatives of human factions, who will also be represented out in the live expeditions. Some of these factions will be joinable and some won't be, but they all represent some ideological reaction to the end. Take the treaty Originating as a benevolent organization for peaceful connection between the living, they became increasingly violent and sectarian over time. Or the Sable Engineers, a mechanical order interested in using technology to subdue the natural world. But some of the less civilized factions will manifest largely out in the world. The Cult of the Gentle Mother, an all-male sect of monks who blind their enemies to give them sight. The Partakers, borderline feral cannibals, or the Imperial Sanitaires, huge, lumbering witch hunters essentially who have decided to patrol and cleanse the mainland, killing any hunger or living they find. Basically the ultimate badasses. Even one of these guys will be a mini-boss on their own. Yeah, they'll be out there in expeditions, and you'll be able to fight them. If your rep with a given faction is positive, you'll be able to approach and meet with their leaders in their camps out in expeditions and complete special in-raid tasks. But for an enemy faction, a camp becomes essentially a mini-boss objective to conquer. The idea that you could be fighting players or hunger alongside human NPCs in a live raid is something that to me totally changes the scope of this game. See, hunger requires a little bit of a mentality shift. It's an extraction game, yes, but that word comes with baggage. This trope of get in, loot, fight players, die, get frustrated, repeat. This cycle. Good Fun just never really seemed that interested in that side of things. Extraction itself is just one system in a line of many. The catalyst for confirming successful progression in the way that foe slain or reaching a campfire is in an action RPG, or mission complete is in a linear single-player experience. What to do, where to go, what role to play, and for who or what's end. Good Fun are designing the game around these decisions, and true role-playing is where players will begin to step over from intermediate to advanced. Remember how I mentioned that this looks like a hero shooter, but it isn't? When you start the game, you get a Psyche Seed, essentially one character unlock. And as you rank up, you'll acquire more, unlocking more characters to your roster. Essentially, they're like an entire different account. Rank a player up high enough and you can Prestige, which wipes your character's mastery progress. That's your skill tree, remember. But when you do this, you'll unlock one of that character's abilities to be able to apply to a different character. Meaning that eventually, you'll have an entire roster of characters and abilities completely free to customize interchangeably. The character's skins will be their only hard defining trait, skins that you find and earn in-game and keep forever, remember. When you combine prestige build crafting and mastery with the following mechanics, the RPG elements really start to show their face. Take professions. Very simply, professions are a job players can choose, which allow them to loot and then refine certain types of raw materials from in-game nodes. They can then craft within corresponding categories: armor, bladed or ballistic weapons, ammo, food, drinks, healing items, whatever. This is something that you can do for your own benefit, of course, but being a member of a guild will provide unique crafting benefits while also allowing players to focus a role with more specificity. With their own customizable banners and titles, these are essentially going to become player-controlled factions centering around a like-minded playstyle. Guild leaders could be able to set calendar events for various tasks. We need people to mine a lot of iron to refine. We're all going to run the Undercroft dungeon on this day, etc., giving players someone to play with if your normal buddies aren't online. Tie all of this into the player auction house and, well, you can see how the chateau is a lot more than just your menu. Choice. Decision-making, planning. The more time I've spent in the game, the more it feels like a puzzle of systems. I have all these options at my disposal: consumables, weapons, keys, abilities, masteries. It's like I'm building a deck for a potential play, and so is every other player, with the world playing its own hand against all of us. No one person, one team, could ever complete the entire map, or even half of it. There's simply too many elements, too much to loot, to fight. And it has the potential, especially with everything coming in the future, to almost create this open-world MMO-like situation on a small instance-based scale. Rather than different maps or cordoned regions separated by level, you'll have beginners scuttling around a camp for ammo over here, someone trying to fight a drooler by themselves over there, somebody doing a fort while others mine for ore or collect herbs nearby, and of course, those who dare fighting their way through the dungeon under everyone's feet. All in their own little worlds, with their own roles to play, yet all in the same instance, with the potential to intersect. But, okay, to what end? All this collection of stuff, refining, crafting, trading, questing, looting, where does it all go? Now, as with a lot of what I've talked about in this video, huge caveat about things that are planned and won't be in the game's earliest versions, but I originally got the impression that expeditions and the resulting boss fights were the only planned form of endgame for players. Apparently, not the case at all. Boss fights, as I covered in my first Hunger video, are essentially a Souls-like boss fight. So that players aren't dealing with crossing a whole map, potentially being camped after defeating a boss, you spend a boss room key and load into an isolated PvE-only experience straight from the chateau. Every boss follows the theme of their corresponding dungeon and the part of 1800s French society that their twisted, corrupted form represents. Jacques de Molay, in the Jacques' Folly dungeon on the map Jacques' Bridge. He's the military. Gone mad with power, he tested the limits of human suffering, skinning people alive in his dungeon. His fight will be themed around speed, use of blades, and causing bleeding damage. The Abbot, in the Undercroft dungeon on the map Sarlat Farm, he's the clergy. Having kidnapped countless children and eaten them, he's a swollen, rotting, ancient husk. His fight is based on poison gas and slow, decaying damage. Ferris, in the Pit dungeon on Somber Forest, he's industry. The head woodcutter, he was tortured and abused by rogue sects of the military. His fight is based on his overwhelming brute strength, his resistance to pain, destruction, and area of effect damage. These fights will be extremely hard, rewarding players with guaranteed legendary items, including cosmetics and even unique items only found on that given boss. Bosses are one of the ways high-level players can test their best stuff, and of course, lose a lot of it. But not the only way. Battlegrounds is the manifestation of the human factions at war, a fully PvP mode. Essentially, 6 versus 6 objective-based rounds, akin to something found in Battlefield or other objective games. You'll load in with whatever you want as your loadout for a given match, knowing that if you lose the match, you'll lose that stuff. You'll be able to earn titles, cosmetics, rank up. This is a way to give players, and guilds, a way to gain faction reputation and some XP on a smaller scale, where they can fight people quick, get better at PvP outside the context of an expedition's complexity. But I know, not everyone is that interested in the purely PvP side of things, which is where Trials comes in. Essentially, Left 4 Dead or Dark Tide-esque linear PvE-only missions largely geared towards solo players. These will vary in difficulty from basic to legendary with corresponding rewards if you're frustrated, just caught a really annoying death in an expedition, or maybe you want to warm up a bit before getting out into the serious stuff. Hop into a trial and slay some hunger to your heart's content. Or, if you want a real challenge, legendary difficulty trials will be a serious test of skill. At the end of the day, Hunger was a reaction to things that the people at GFC liked, just as Hell Let Loose was a reaction to milsims and World War II shooters that preceded it. But how you choose to apply mechanics you know and understand doesn't mean they'll manifest in the same way in the new game. Escape from Tarkov was influenced by MMORPGs, for example. Its account wipes were an in-development stopgap measure that became a fan-favorite part of resetting the economy. But classic MMOs like Warcraft never force-wiped their players' progress, and yet people came back year after year. That Tarkov players fight bosses in raids, or other players in the PvP arena mode in order to build up their character for more PvPvE raids is one approach. With Hunger, they said, okay, what if it was the other way around? Your goals dictate your builds, whether that be looting, map traversal, fighting player or environment, or who knows what going into the future. I'm gonna let Good Fun tell you themselves about their plans for content release, because I don't even actually know. But they have said that stuff like the human NPC factions, new Hunger, etc., they've set systems up to allow them to silently and without warning drop these into the game. You might be wandering through the woodcutter's camp in Somber Forest one day and suddenly there's a huge metallic watchtower you've never seen before. You hear somebody yelling in French to take aim and, well, maybe you should find some hard cover. To me at least though, that the expeditions are always a place of challenge, mystery, the sounds. The feeling of weapons in your hands. The satisfaction of that connecting hit. It's these bones to the experience that really need to shine first before anything else. When you can touch that world, the raw feeling of being out in the mainland, that's what really makes you want to look forward, past the horizon, and go, what should my endgame be? I'm Riloe, and I like to talk about stuff that I think is cool. I hope you enjoyed this second, significantly deeper look at Hunger, and I cannot wait to see how it progresses towards early access. Thanks, of course, to Max, Spano, and Rory for constantly keeping in touch with me, helping me with any issues that I had on the back end, and providing all the amazing materials for me to show you guys today. And of course, thank you again to War Thunder for being the sponsor of today's video. Remember to check out the game on PC, console, and mobile for free by using the links in my description or pinned comment. And for anyone who's new or who hasn't played in at least 6 months, take advantage of the huge limited time pack across PC and console, which comes with premium currency and vehicles, and a bunch more. And thanks you guys, of course, for watching. Subscribe if you're new here and you want to see more like this. But I want to mention, by the way, I've been playing Hunger on an incomplete, constantly updated backend developer branch entirely in PvE. And while I have made a solid effort to progress completely naturally without any handouts from the devs, this incomplete nature of my experience in-game does taint my impression of it compared to how the game will play upon public early access and beyond. It's why I don't really talk about how things feel mechanically, balancing, etc. All of that is subject to has and will change. Hell, when I first started playing, the map had no player marker, and now it does, and you can understand how much that changes how the game plays. TLDR, take the details of what I said with a grain of salt. My interest is more about the whole vibe of a game, and why I find it cool or interesting. That being said, if you enjoyed, leave a cheers in the comments if you watched this whole beast of a video. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you very soon. Peace.